I would like to present Nick Doerner, who's going to talk about crit get hit and give you some insights into automated scanners for pen testing. Please give him a round of applause.
Great, thank you. So my talk is Talk Crit Get Hit, examining vulnerability scanners for penetration testing. So this talk is mainly aimed towards anyone who's interested in penetration testing, but you can also use it quite a bit on the defensive side. So there should be some value here for both offense and defense. Out of range, there we go. So who am I? I'm a security consultant over at TrustedSec currently. I have about 5 years experience in the field. I also work as a red team member for the NCAE cyber games, and also am an adjunct at various colleges in my area. Right now, I'm mostly focused on penetration testing and social engineering for my work. This includes internal, external, a little bit of web application, and phishing, all that fun stuff. Today we're gonna do a little bit of picking on a few, mostly one vulnerability scanner. You'll see quite a bit of it. It's nothing against them specifically. It's nothing that I really hate them or have any animosity towards them. It's just it's the most common one. So you'll see we're picking on them for a reason. And it's really just a lot of, it's not full on complaining, but a little bit of old man yells at clouds. So who are we picking on? I think this was expected just based off the name of the talk. There's a lot of reasons why, but specifically in my line of work of what I do now, as well as what I was doing before, is I see Nessus just about everywhere. I see Nessus at my own clients. I've seen Nessus used at organizations I've worked for in the past, organizations I work for in general. It's something that it's out there. It's something that's used all the time, and a lot of organizations will really rely on it. And I get some really interesting questions from my own clients during readout reviews, things along those lines, asking, hey, we use Nessus, we have it in our toolkit, we're remediating the crits, the highs, even some of the mediums, we're just trying to keep up with this stuff. Why are we still losing in a penetration test? Why are you still getting DA? Why are we still having all these issues? Why are we still getting rated, at these high levels of compromise? So really, there's a few reasons to it, but we'll kind of jump into some of my excitement. When I first started working in the field, this got me really excited. This was awesome. I was like, oh man, we're gonna have shells everywhere. Everything's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna get DA real quick. That's not really the case when you actually dig into these a little bit though. One of the things with Nessus specifically is a lot of this is aimed towards more compliance factors and compliancy. So you'll see a lot of these vulnerabilities are more SSL, TLS is out of date. What are you really going to do with that on an internal penetration test? Things that you're looking for are more along the lines of something that's going to get you a shell. So your eternal blues, blue keep, all the good ones that we have our modules for and tools. And this is where the excitement kind of dies down because you start to look at it. And just a side note, kind of tangent, I really hated when Nessus decided to make everything nested under mixed. You can fix that now, which is great, but that's really annoying. You can go in and you can see, we have different things here that, are rated as a high and a critical, but they're not necessarily things that are actionable for a penetration tester. They're ones that you can report on and they're great from a compliance standpoint. But when you're looking at a attack path or any type of vulnerability that you're trying to go in and use or chain together with others, you can't necessarily take that and use it to either get DA or get your standard user and then either pivot and try to escalate privileges or try to get your high-level users. So these are some of the common attack paths I use. I'm really sorry that this is an awful-looking flowchart, but these are the ones I get most common just to get to DA in a really quick and fast time frame. We start off, we just have a device on the network. So, whether the client provides a VM, you have a Dropbox, something along those lines. And then my first step is responder and NTLM relay. That's a really common attack path is to use those in conjunction together. You look for areas where SMB signing is not required. You can then pass that information along, get your initial access, your foothold. If the account's got local admin that you've got, then you can start using like proxy chains with secrets dump, getting that really good information. You can also take, while you're doing your responder and NTLM relay, you're capturing hashes actively also. Take those offline, try to recover a password. Once you have your foothold, your initial foothold, whether it's credentials or getting local admin and dumping credentials that way, you can use things like CertiPy. That gets you straight to DA a lot of the time right now. You can use things like secrets dump and then passing the hash and just going through, reiterating through systems until you find, that DA account, that golden account that you really want, and then using that against the domain controller and just getting DA that way. There's also password spraying that gets you an initial foothold. What are we right now? March 2023 explanation point. That's going to get you a lot of places. Spring 2023, winter 2022. Those are great passwords, great ways to start. Cisco Smart Install is one that I've seen quite a bit lately. Usually it's on the internal side, you're going to see that. Cisco has said that that is a feature, not a vulnerability. Because of that, you can actually go in, you can get some really good information out of that. There have been a few times I've even gotten DA just because I've seen Cisco Smart Install is enabled. You go in, get the hash out of there, reverse it, and you're DA. Now, how this relates to like Nessus, for example, is we have a small key right here. So the blues are in Nessus. What most of what these revolve around are either going to be an informational or not in Nessus in the scan from an unauthenticated scan against your systems. Same thing for the yellow. That's going to be something that's going to be a medium, and red is going to be a high. So the only one that comes directly to mind when you're using Responder and NTLM Relay, there are a few vulnerabilities that Nessus will pick up with this, but SMB signing, and that's rated a medium. So SMB signing not enabled, that's going to be generally rated a medium by Nessus itself. You're not really going to be thinking, wow, I'm going to get so much access off of this, but it's something that's really good and is really useful for trying to get that access spread across the network and then be able to elevate your privileges. Password stored in shares, so this one's a little bit tricky. There's the reason I put it here and have it added as a high is there's a lot of times you're going to see open shares are rated as a high or even a critical, depending on how your scan is set up with Nessus. But this I generally use with authentication. Usually when you're already authenticated and you can get access to shares or you can read some shares, you can use your Spider module for CrapMac exec, for example. That's going to get you a lot further than just going in unauthenticated. But this is still something I want to include because it is still a point that they make to make sure that if they are unauthenticated and they can get into those shares, they're world readable, that they notify you about. So really, these are the ones that we came out with. SMB signing not required. Cisco Smart Install enabled is informational and shares a world readable high. One more note just on Cisco Smart Install. There are vulnerabilities for RCE that came out a few years ago that Nessus will pick up on, but since that time, and they came out with that being an informational now, so if it's patched up to the latest version after that disclosure, it'll still appear as an informational, but you can still get in and actually go through that config file. Maybe. There it goes. So what does work? Right now, these are the things I kind of want to talk about as far as Nessus goes and vulnerability scanning in general. What do you want to use it for? There's a few reasons, not only as a pen tester, but also as a defender, so offensive and defensive. It's really great for CVEs. Finding those CVEs, finding your systems that are vulnerable to blue keep, finding your systems that are vulnerable to eternal blue. Whatever the next new great exploit is that comes out, and then you update Nessus, all the plugins are updated, and it's detecting the new RCE that weekend. It's really great at that. It's also good at compliance. A lot of people roll their eyes and hate compliance, but it is something that's out there. It's something that a lot of organizations have to adhere to, whether it's PCI compliance or anything that has to do with medical industry or anything that has to do with PII. So going in and making sure that you're compliant is something that's important to a lot of organizations, but in my view, that's only one step, and that's only the first step. Compliance isn't just a checkbox, it's just the first step into making sure that you're properly secured and making sure that your organization can properly defend whether it's your own information or the information of your clients and customers. It's also great for checking what's on your network. I've seen a lot of organizations that don't have Nessus, a lot of really small ones, and we'll go through and we'll take a look at the entire network. We'll use, our Nmap, Nessus, all that good stuff. And when you come back to them and say, hey, what's the system doing? It's really vulnerable. It's really out of date. They're like, we thought we, threw that in the trash in a dumpster somewhere 3 years ago, but it's just still hanging out on the network, responding to everything, letting you know and letting you get in. And in my personal view, scanners, I've kind of been parroting this a little bit, but they're very much a supplement. They're just another tool in your toolbox, and they're just something that both from the offensive side and the defensive side are going to help you better secure the organization and your clients. So what doesn't work, and these are the ones that drive me a little crazy, especially because they're ones I wish that I knew about very early in my career. I took a lot of losses just trying to figure a lot of this out on my own. But reliance on vulnerability scanners is generally something that's going to be a real big negative for you. Because of this, I really like to run Nessus at the end of an engagement. So do all of your manual testing, for example. You have an internal from a Monday through a Friday, so you have a full week for it. Instead of starting off with Nessus, don't just fire it away. Try to stay a little stealthy. Try to see if monitoring detection's working, things along those lines. But also go in and do your Nessus scan on the Thursday or Friday, and then verify. If you don't have DA, or you don't have your goal or the goal set forth by the client, by the time that you are reaching those last 2 days, then go for it. That means that they're doing really well and that they're doing what they need to do, and that you should go in, do a double check with Nessus. If you can get any further using that information, great. If not, you did your job from a very high level by manual testing in a very good way, and you're going to do really well. Hyper-focus is another one. This kind of stems also from using Nessus and vulnerability scanners first. A lot of people will kind of hone in on those issues and that they see in there. They won't look for other issues. Things like CertiPy, certificate authority misconfigurations, those aren't going to be really picked up by Nessus. Things like different ways that you can do poisoning and tampering with the network and try to capture traffic. Again, not going to really be picked up. In that hyper-focus, when you're just kind of zoning in on those vulnerabilities that you see from a scanner, that's where you're really kind of setting yourself up to have some issues. So what can we do better? Really, a lot of it is foundational knowledge, in my personal opinion. I come from academia. I went to school for my associate's, bachelor's, master's, and partway through a doctorate. So the foundational knowledge that we're giving to students, and not just saying, hey, here's a vulnerability scanner, you should just use this. Going through the actual techniques and pathing and how to either utilize them or how to defend against them is really a lot more beneficial, I think, to students, and making sure that they're able to take that information and then apply it in their careers further on. Also, constant education. Just making sure that you're going to, things like BSides Rochester, things like all kinds of conferences, educating yourself either through conferences, free talks, online news articles, things along those lines, and seeing the new techniques that are coming out that may not be picked up by a vulnerability scanner, that may not be something that your company already has preparations for, so that you can better defend against new and exciting vulnerabilities. And I saw the sign, so we're running low on time. Any questions from anybody? More than happy to answer any. Yes?
Yeah, so how much do you coordinate and not coordinate with defensive teams for detection and response? So you're going through your things, you got goals, do you combine that with, again, their detection and debriefing and the in-out outline?
Absolutely. So how much do we coordinate with the defensive teams to go through our proper response when we're seeing these vulnerabilities? For where I work, it really depends on where you're working. What I like to do personally, though, is go in and talk to that defensive team. Now, a lot of it depends on if the defensive team is one that is a pure defensive team. Sometimes it's just, Ed from IT, and he's, got the security budget, he's your point of contact. But a lot of the time, what I like to do is notify the client at the start of the engagement, listen, we're going to go low and slow. We're going to start really quiet. If you see anything from us, if you start getting alerts from any type of monitoring and detection, if you're seeing things that are saying, hey, we're blocking all of this stuff because it's doing really, really poorly, let us know, send us an email. We'll verify it was us. And then from there, we can work on, was that a detection? Was it a proper detection? Maybe we don't hear from them either because they didn't get that notification directly or they just didn't send it on. So that's another thing at the end of the engagement is say, hey, did you detect XYZ? Did you detect that we were running, default versions of Responder? Did you detect that we were, throwing eternal blue? Did you detect that we attempted to log into 600 systems at once with one user? Things along those lines, and then try to refine down and see how can we enhance that monitoring and detection for them in the future. Yes?
Can you elaborate a little bit? You said you like to use Nessus last.
Yes.
What are some of the other things you do? Are there other tools you use at the beginning? Or are you kind of doing some random checks? Or
Absolutely.
elaborate on some of the things you do before Nessus?
Yeah, so some of the what kind of tools am I using outside of Nessus at the start of the engagement? First thing I do every single time I go in, I throw Responder up in analyze mode, and I just see what's going across. It's not something that's generally going to pop anything on me, and it's something that I can go through and get some really good ideas of what I'm working with, what kind of client I'm seeing. I also like to go through and do some small sweeps. I'll do some things with very small, like light sweeps with crack map exec, CME. That's a really good one to kind of get an idea of what you have that's outward facing, what you have to work with as far as SMB signing goes. So if you do decide to go the path of Responder and NTLM relay, you have that list already compiled and ready to go. Very light Nmap scans, Nmap and going through. I like to use a tool called SpoonMap that we use, and it combines Nmap with another tool and allows you to go through and pull out a lot of information and specify ports, things along those lines.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Anything else? Yes.
More and more, we've got a lot of APIs that are out there across the open internet. Where does DAS fit into this kind of plan at this point? Do you prefer like an on-prem DAS solution or more cloud-based? Is there?
That's a loaded question. That's one I can speak to you after about a little bit. That's just, I know we're kind of running low on time, and I've seen the sign already once. Any other questions, feel free to come to me outside of the event. I'm here for the event the whole day, but we do have other speakers coming up, so I'm excited to see them, and thank you so much for coming out.